Robin Parsons, welcome to the Vic Art Society and our 150th anniversary. Well, Robin, you have a very special relative, an artist, Elizabeth Parsons, who was the first woman ever elected to the Vic Art Society Council. And secondly, she has been one of Australia's greatest painters. And you're here today at the Vic Art Society. What did you think when you found out her work of Daylesford was in the exhibition?
Two things come to mind, Ron. One was pride and the other was excitement.
And I suppose the whole family would be thinking about that because you got an email that said she was in the exhibition. And what happened from there?
Ron, I'd like to think it's a bit like serendipity, like Dad's cousin from the other side of the marriage is a member here and he forwarded us the email on, and he also has an interest in art in this family. So the other random thing is I came here 2 years ago and actually thought that I'd stepped over into the artist studio over the piece of bluestone step that's worn down that Elizabeth would have stepped through many a time in her artistic involvement here. That was a bit of a...
Anyone who has been here from those times and people who come here today, those bluestone steps are really in the artist's footsteps.
Yeah.
And so it's a lovely entry to the building. But of course the wonderful painting of Daylesford was such a beautiful piece of work, and that sat in our collection. And I think people were rather stunned when we got everything out, and here was this beautiful painting. But it's been even better now. We're getting to meet with all her relatives like you.
Yeah, it's an honour, and I think particularly because Dad, Peter Parsons, took such pride and put so much of his life into being the guardian of her work and wanting or hoping that Elizabeth would receive the recognition that has perhaps been under-acknowledged till now. So I think he'd be really, on his behalf, I feel quite heartened. Yeah.
How important is it to families like yours who have had artists and other people that have done really good things, that recognition continues and that you are able to interact with it?
Ron, that's a really good question. I can actually feel that it's critical, like she would be undervalued and her life seems to matter more because of the recognition of her work, for example, being displayed here.
And the work is so beautiful and such of tremendous quality. It's almost like a camera in some ways, that you can see those little brush strokes, and I think there's a little bit of pastel blended in the painting, which is quite interesting.
It caught my eye, Ron, because I'm just dabbling in art myself and now appreciate how hard it is to get a watercolour to flow on the paper and how hard it is to get those colours to blend. So now I have even more respect for her skill and also her persistence to go out to these remote parts of Australia or New Zealand and Milford Sound and paint under hot, dusty heat waves or cold, disgusting southwesterly winds blowing. There's a painting that she's painted on lawn that's just so exciting to go and stand at the spot where she's painted it from.
Now we've talked about the painting and the relationship that you're now unfolding here with Vic Arts. But over your period of time and that, have you ever gone round and visited any of the houses where she used to live? I mean, it's a little bit of a mystery. I mean, you can see in her bibliography the number of places that she lived in Melbourne. It's quite a lot. So have you ever run across any of those?
I'm glad you asked me because I have lived quite close to Neptune Lane where she used to live in St Kilda, and I'd walk up and down that street often, and I got a sense of, I don't know, history or a bit of goosebumps, if you like. And Dad's taken great interest in trying to show us other places in St Kilda where she's painted, and particularly there's a place I think called Clovel. I can't be quite sure, but there is a sense of continuity that someone who was significant in our lives in the Victorian Artists Society lived in this place with this gate or this post box.
I get that.
Yeah.
St Kilda would have changed a little bit since then,
Mm-hmm.
but St Kilda itself still has a bit of that spirit, that artistic spirit,
Most definitely.
just through the buildings and you know, community, etc.
And I come to think that there's possibly the same bluestone gutter in front of her house in Neptune Lane. The other thing is that her husband, George Parsons, someone's recently written a thesis about his architectural role, so that